Welcome. Welcome back to the guitar, everybody. Hey, it's Lee. We're doing the podcast. This is episode 123. This is our live stream where I do the podcast live, and this is a little before we start thing. If you're new to the show, welcome. We have some really cool people here in the chat. They're talking about scratchy pots on the guitar. This is my kind of place, man. This is all right. Happy to be here with you on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you today. I'm just checking the chat real quick here. Maybe I should do it over here so it doesn't look like I'm looking away from the thing. I'll put my phone down here. Check the chat on my phone today. So we're going to do episode 123. We're going to do it conversational style today. I have an outline of the things I want to get to, but I think we're just going to talk about it a little bit. I may check in with the chat as we go through the podcast this time. Evan's here. Hey, Evan, good to see you. And Chris, hey, Chris, good to see you too. Oh, I'm glad it made sense. I'm glad I made sense because I was doing founding members videos till I didn't get to bed till about 3:30 last night. So I gotta fix something with that. That's my schedule is a little off lately. So Dean's here. Hey Dean, good to see you. Dino's here. Evan, Brennan's here. Man, we got some cool folks here. Happy that you're all hanging out with me today. And we have some more folks too who maybe are not in the chat. I just want to say welcome to you too. Thank you for watching. We're going to talk about something that came up over the weekend in our live hangouts that we do all weekend. So we do them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this is the end of the 4 live hangout stretch where we do the podcast for the week. And this is also the videos for the week too. What's different this time, at the end, I would do openings for the videos. I'm going to do all that offline today. There's no sense in doing that while everybody's hanging out. So I'm just going to make sure I check the chat and we've got everything. Then we'll go ahead and get started. I think I've got all my notes down. Need to press record. That's important. And I'll press record over here. We're recording. Okay. So I'm going to start the intro music. Like we said before, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to hear it, so it may not match up right away, but in the audio podcast, I'll fix it a little bit later. Okay, so yeah, I think this first section, I'm going to be out of the chat just so I can get used to how we're doing, and then I'll check in after that. Okay. All right, I guess we're ready to go. Put my guitar pick. I'll just hold on to it. Why not? All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the guitar. Have you made the commitment to make it work this time? Today, I give the top 3 tips to make your newly found experience on the guitar much more successful this time. So stay tuned. I'm doing that over. That was terrible. Oh, that was terrible. Here, let's do that one over. Today, I give the top 3 tips to make your newly experience. I wrote it wrong. That's what messed me up. Today, I give the top 3 tips to make your experience on the guitar much more successful this time. That's worked. That'll be better. I'm so happy I can do this. I can stop. Okay, let's go again. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the guitar. Have you made the commitment to make it work this time? Today I give the top 3 tips to make your experience on the guitar much more successful. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to episode 123 of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. Welcome back to the guitar. This is going to be a different kind of show. We're going to do a little bit more conversational today. We've been doing a lot of hangouts over the weekends. We have some really cool community members in the chat that have been on a panel with us on Saturday and in the chat all weekend. And one of the topics that came up was coming back to guitar after you've put it down for a while. Now, this is something that I did. Which episode was it? Back on episode 36. I touched on this a bit. We did 7 steps, a 7-step process to put you back on the path. This was a practical example. Today it's now that you've decided to take that path, take the plunge again, so to say. What are some things that are going to keep you moving forward? And so I have 3 tips for that. We're going to get into each one of those today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that right now. So you're giving it another go. Why? Why is that? Why are you starting to play guitar again? Why didn't it work out for you for the first time? And who do you blame for that? Do you blame yourself? Did you not give it enough time? Were you just not cut out for it? Is the way you felt? Obviously, I'm not going to say that. I've got a whole different view on that. But did you not know what sort of commitment the guitar was going to be? The commitment you were going to have to make? Or was it somebody else's fault? Did you get discouraged? Did someone say some bad things to you? Or did you maybe have a teacher that wasn't right for you that discouraged you? Or could it be you were just plain confused about what to do with the guitar, where to go with the guitar? No matter the reason, I think universally, everyone who gives the instrument another shot, they hope that this time is going to be the time. This time it's going to be better than the last. And that's what we're talking about today. We're going to make it better this time. So we're going to go over the 3 tips to help you stay on the straight and narrow. I've got a whole outline here. I'm going to read a little bit from my outline, then we're going to talk about it. And we may even check the chat a little bit. So let's talk about number 1 today. Let's remember why you got into guitar in the first place. Why did you do that? That's the ultimate gut check. Learning guitar is huge. There's so many different styles. There's so many different techniques. And there's nothing stopping you from learning all of them. The problem is they don't all mix well. And what do I mean by that? Why the different styles? Let's take an example. So let's say that you want to be a blues guitar player, but for some reason you have a nylon string classical guitar. And you practice. But the way that technique works for a nylon to make the finger style and to make the guitar sound the best may not be what the techniques you would use for blues guitar. So if you're spending your time working on that when you have a goal of being a blues guitar player, it can throw you off track. Another thing is spending some time to nail down what that goal would be. What is it that you really want to be able to do. Remembering why we got into guitar in the first place. What's the reason you're here? That is so hard to stay focused on because it's so big, because guitar's so big. So really having that, nailing down your goal, remembering why you got into guitar in the first place will keep you moving forward. Number 3 is plan to go over this at regular times. Periodically evaluate what you're working with on the guitar, what you've been doing, and ask yourself a question. And here it is. Here's the question. Why? Okay, I messed that up. Let me do that again. Plan to periodically evaluate what you've been doing and ask yourself. Oh, this is one of those days. Number 3, plan to periodically evaluate what you've been doing and ask yourself, will this actually help me achieve my goal? And if it isn't, if you're working hard on something that's not going to get you to your goal, and I've been there, I've done this many, many, many times, what you should do is stop. Stop it right away. Don't go down that path. Don't go off into a tangent. You will end up frustrated in the long run. Guarantee it. Just stop it. Wait till later and get back on the trail for the goal that you want to achieve. If you have all day to practice guitar, and I've been there, there's been times in my life where I had lots and lots and lots of time to practice. If you've got all day to practice guitar, that's great. And so explore, do those, but realize that it may not be that way forever. Most likely it's not going to be that way forever. So I would think a better way to go is to focus on that main goal that you have first. Now that you have all this time, be intent also with your practice. Go for that goal first with all that time that you have. And then once you achieve that goal, then start experimenting and trying new things. Just put it off for a little bit of while, which is hard to do. Okay, so let's talk about the next reason why it's really important to remember why you got into guitar in the first place, and that's to fight off discouragement. And I know from dealing with a lot of frustrated guitar players, discouragement is we all feel from time to time. So I think one of the best ways to go about that is to periodically listen to the type of music that you want to play in the first place. It's natural. We all move on to different things. We all branch out. We listen to a little bit of this, listen to a little bit of this. You want to, be able to play that, be able to play this. It's okay that we all do that. But when we all move on to different things, when you get reminded of the dream, the reason you're putting all this time in, it can make those times that are not so successful fun again. And you just get the feeling that you're back on the path and the feeling that you're in the right direction. That's something that I really try to do. I really try to help people with. Get back on the path. Or if they didn't even know there was a path, to bring them into that narrow path where you start knocking down these basic skills that are going to really push you forward on the guitar. It can be very encouraging to take that time to listen to the music. Also, to fight off discouragement is something once you're an intermediate player and you start playing in bands, then you're dealing with people. And that's your plans can get derailed easily when you're in a band. And let's talk about that. Just because you have gigs, that doesn't mean you're gonna be happy. Other people that you're playing with, or other people, they might have their own plans and different plans than you. And other people can be very convincing, and they can put you in situations you're dealing with. You've decided it's worth it to deal with that, but underneath it all, you're not very happy. And remembering why you started learning the guitar in the first place and lining that up. So here's why I am today, and here's where I started. And here's the reason why I wanted to play guitar in the first place. We lose that sometime, but lining those up and looking at the two with your current situation, that can help you with some tough decisions that you might have to make. Leaving a band, or starting your own band, or finding the group of people who their dreams and their what they want their band to be able to play, and moving in a different direction. And that's a tough decision, especially when you like the people that you're playing with, but it's just not working out for you. But lining those up makes your decisions a lot easier. Well, we're talking about people who have quit guitar and who are coming back to the guitar and remembering why you get into the guitar in the first place. But this is a good idea for pretty much everyone, not just people who are returning to the guitar. We get, as musicians, we get stale over time. We take the wrong path sometimes. And sometimes it might feel like you're going in the right direction, and eventually you realize, okay, this isn't working out the way I thought it would. Those things. So going back and figuring that, even just listening to the music that you wanted to play, that type of guitar player that you wanted to be, make it so easy to make a course correction. It's very, when we're looking at all the things that we could do and all the opportunities that are there for us, most of the times they don't feel as good than if you were to keep working at a direction that you initially wanted to in the first place. Okay, so that is the first section of our welcome back to the guitar. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Go back. Oh, we got to go back a ways. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Master Nun said, "May the 4th be with you." Man, this is, if you've got Disney Plus and you like Star Wars, they've got some great, I watched a little bit today. Tonight's going to be our Star Wars night tonight. I'm one of these people who just, if it says Star Wars on it, I usually like it. Not all of it, but most of it. So Evan says, "I blame myself, but don't beat myself up over it. Life happens. I'm just really happy to be back at it." That's great. And Chris says, "Family and work can put the brakes on, and you have to find a new routine." That's me completely. I was gone. We lived in Nashville for 2 years, and I was gone all the time. I was across the country playing. But know what's more important than that? My daughter and my wife are more important than that, So I found a new way to go, and I'm enjoying it. And this is very rewarding. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too later on in the podcast. So Chris says, even moving house and having a different setup. Kenny's here. Thank you for hanging out, Kenny. Evan says, "It was a mix of that, Chris, and also a little discouragement at not knowing how to achieve what I wanted." That's great. Not great for you, but that's what I was thinking when I was putting that first section together. Evan asks, I was axing for something. Evan says, "Down in New Orleans, we ask for things all the time." I know, man. We're missing a lot of festivals. And the last time I went down there, it was like, what's going on? Oh, there's a festival it was the tomato festival. The weekend I went the last time there too. Chris said, my friends all went to uni, so our band just stopped. Plus, getting a house with partner, it took a while to find my playing space, and then kids. Mm-hmm. Yes. And Dina says, I practice Guitar Hero and Rock Band all day and still can't play an F chord. Yeah. I've never played either. I think I may have played Guitar Hero once, and it was just basically rhythm, right? So as the dots are coming down, you have to hit them in time, which is rhythm is a part of it. But that was funny, Tina. Thanks. I may need a better practice routine. And when a band breaks up, that's something I hadn't thought of too. Evan was talking about when a band breaks up, you lose a lot of motivation as well too. Yeah. And hey, how you doing today? He says, I play guitar, but the calluses that are formed are peeling and uneven. Please help. Well, that's a 2-week thing. But the peeling of the calluses, a lot of times if you, I've had people who hand wash dishes. A lot of times with their hands are wet a lot, or they swim a lot, and the calluses tend to come off a little bit too. So I know for what helped one of my students was when they hand wash dishes, a lot of times to wear gloves when they do that. It's to not keep them wet for long periods of time. But usually those calluses after 2 weeks, they start to form up a little bit better. They don't hurt as much, so that may be why they're peeling and uneven, I would think. Just Cook says, I chew them off like a savage. Don't, man. You need them. You need them things. Kevo, hey, man. Says, my failure to pick up my guitar so far across the room seems to be hampering my practice. Need to move it closer to the couch. Need to get you one of these and just wear it all the time. Just wear your guitar everywhere you go. I notice I stand a little like when I'm not holding the guitar. I've stood for so many hours with the guitar that I stand a little like I'm holding it. I'm working on that right now. Then Evan says, Rock Band is fun, but I'd rather learn the songs on my actual guitar at this point. Me too. He was just kidding. Yep. Yeah. Okay, great chat. Man, you guys are cracking me up. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to go on to part 2. In fact, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. Okay, so let's go on to part 2. Here's part 2. This is called Don't Hold Yourself Back. Have you ever said this to yourself? Oh, I'll never be able to do that. Well, I guarantee that if you decide you're going to be able to do something in time, it can be accomplished. I've seen it over and over and over again. I think a lot of people have short memories. I've seen people who are accomplishing things. They accomplish the thing that they want, and then they're discouraged again after it's over because they get a whole new idea of where they want to be, right? The next thing they want to go to, and they forget about all the work that these not lesser accomplishments, but accomplishments that that may not be all the way to their final goal yet. They don't really see the milestones along the way. So making sure once you've decided to start back on guitar that you're not holding yourself back. You're not the cause of that. So one of the things you can do is take on the challenge. Pick what you want to do and say that I'm going to do it. It may take a long time. It may take years. It may take months. It may take weeks. Who knows? But listen to me and I will tell you that I've seen over and over again when someone dedicates themselves to a certain goal, it is 9 times, I've seen almost 100% of the times it's accomplished. And I've dealt with some students who have had some obstacles in their way for achieving goals too. And we've worked at it. So that phrase, "Oh, I'll never be able to do that," is poison. It's poison. Um, of course, we're not going to be able to do everything, but there are things in guitar that we can accomplish that are us. You know, that you could become a guitar player, that you have a voice in a certain style. I'm thinking about a specific player. That's why I kind of went down this path. But so I want you to get in the habit of, the minute you start to say that, "Oh, I'll never be able to do that," to flip it, to say, "If I tried, I could be able to do that." Throwing some confidence on there. It's very, very, very important. And taking on that challenge, it's uplifting, it's inspiring, you're motivated, and even if you aren't seeing success quickly, being on that path is very motivating. Let's talk about fear, because fear is the big thing. When you have that a sentence like, "Oh, I'll never be able to do that," what's the basis? I love to go down to the core of a lot of things like this. And that phrase that I've heard over and over again, it really comes from fear. There's big fears and small fears. There's the run and hide type fears, like the world is dealing with right now. And there's these little fears, little in the back of your mind fears that you may not pay attention to, but they're there. So what would be the fear that's behind a statement like that? "Oh, I'll never be able to do that." Well, failing. Have you ever had the fear of failing? I have, in many different ways. It's not healthy, and it's something that we all struggle with. What if we didn't have to do that? What if that wasn't a part of our makeup, the fear of failing? What if we tried wholeheartedly at every single thing we did with the expectation that we were going to succeed? Will we be better off? I think so. I think so. I think I think so. And what about another fear about what people might say? Well, if I tried to do this, if I tried a big one for this, I'm thinking about several of my students that wanted to play at acoustic nights where they would sing a song, play some acoustic guitar, and get up in front of people. And it's not so much in a band situation. I guess that you having other people along with you, you're not alone in that situation. But really, this statement comes up a lot with people who I just want to go to an open mic night, get up there and sing a song, play my guitar, and be able to do it. It's something I really want to do. I say, all right, let's do it. That's doable. That's something we can do. And then the minute that decision is made, okay, I'll do it, you can see it, because your brain goes, okay, I've made the decision. What's the next step? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be playing in front of people. Goodness gracious, I'm going to be playing in front of people. Well, what if I mess up? What do you think they'll say? What do you think they'll think? Do they think they might think that I'm terrible? They might. Who knows? Who cares? They're not you're doing it. The way I see it is, if I go up and I fail, I've started. This isn't, I don't have to go up there and be like some famous person who have their own fears as well too. This is part of my time with the guitar. And the first time I get up and play in front of people, that's just a step. Trying to get from fear to you're on the road sounds easy. Not as easy as you would think. Okay, so we're talking about fears. We've talked about fear of failing. We talked about big fears and small fears. We talked about failing. We've talked about what people would say. But what about not living up to your own expectations? That you're afraid that you won't be as good as you would like to be, or as you think you can be, and you won't achieve that. Not living up to your own expectations. That can stop you in your tracks. That's mental games. And we're going to talk about the mental aspect of playing. Actually, this whole thing's about the mental aspect of playing guitar. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But not living up to your own expectations. Getting past that. And I really think the journey, that word, that's an overused word. We're on a journey. We're on a journey. You see that a lot. But for this, thinking of this as a journey is really healthy. And it's not only takes the frustration and the fear out of this, but it makes it fun. It makes it happy. You know, and isn't that what this is supposed to be about, is having fun and being happy? Let's talk about another part of not holding yourself back. And we're going to talk about opportunities. There are opportunities out there. There are opportunities for playing to get into, well, not right now, because nobody's playing right now. But when this is over, and yes, it's going to be over, and we're going to be back to playing again. I believe that. So there are opportunities out there for learning. There are opportunities for playing. I remember for learning, I remember one of my professors. It was what was that class? I forget. I remember it. He was talking about his own coming up and how he got to learn from some great players. They were jazz players. This guy was a jazz player, but he got to take some private classes with some really, really great players. And everybody in class was like, "Well, how did you do that?" He says, "I wrote him a letter." And he said, "Well, just come over." And he took the initiative. He put himself out there to be able to receive opportunities. So there's playing opportunities, there's learning opportunities. We're trying to not hold ourselves back. And these fears that we talked about, fear of failing, fear of what people will say, fear of not living up to your own expectations. In his case was fear that somebody who was very important would just not paying him any attention. And it actually was quite the opposite, you know. But if you don't take the risk, 100%, you're not going to get the opportunities. So not being afraid to put yourself out there, even if things don't go well, because you know what? It's just the first step. There's more steps. And you all know better than anyone, the people who are here live today have heard a lot of my stories. And most of my stories are when I mess up. Those are the best. They're funny. They weren't funny at the time. Maybe they were. They were not funny to me at the time, but they're funny. But I've learned from them, and I don't make those mistakes again. And I know going into a situation what to prepare for. Why? Because I've made some mistakes like that. Like, make sure everyone else in the band is tuned standard and not to E flat. It's a good, for a guitar player, that's probably number one before you sit in with the band. Okay. a little bit more of my story, and which I shared this the other day, is I was a math major for my freshman year in college. I was going to be a math teacher. Didn't want to be a math teacher, but that's where I was headed. And I made that decision. I got to that point where there was it's going to either go this way or it's going to go that way. And the decision I made was guitar. I was going to be a musician. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have had my daughter. I wouldn't have gone to a lot of the things that I have a lot of memories that I hold dear. I wouldn't have traveled. I wouldn't have done any of those things. I would have done other things. I'm sure that would have been great. But isn't it funny how life goes full circle? And guess what I've been doing? My daughter's homeschool. I've been teaching math. But not, the whole thing is not be afraid to take this on. Not be afraid to just because you had a hard time starting the guitar one time, not be afraid to pick it back up and put yourself out there. That's where the fun is. So we've had, I'll never be able to do that. We've had put yourself in opportunity's way. And the third thing I want to talk about, as far as not holding yourself back, is that defeated before you start feeling, that negative thinking, where you start to feel it coming on. And so you've started back guitar, you decide, okay, I'm going to start practicing, and you're doing some jamming, you're doing some practicing, and you're thinking, well, what did I do different? What do I need to do different this time to make it successful? And then those negative thoughts start to creep in. You need to pay attention to those thoughts. This is an anxiety trick too. A lot of people, anxiety takes people over without them realizing it. How do I know? I've had to deal with it before, on a small scale, but I understand it. And before you know it, you're in the middle of it. Well, one of the techniques for dealing with anxiety is to realize it's happening before it gets too far. And this is what I want to talk about, because there's a lot of anxiety with guitar playing, a ton of it. And from all different directions, from yourself, from other people, from fear of performing, all of those things. But if you start to find yourself doing this, you need to learn to realize it's happening before it gets too far and knock it off. Have you seen I don't know if you've seen it or not. Jerry Seinfeld has this show, and he talked about psychiatrists who deal with patients, and basically they say, knock it off, right? You'll be fine, knock it off. It doesn't work that way. But in this situation, being conscious of negative thoughts is important. Here's the one: I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to do that. Well, remember this. Remember my voice. Yes, you are good enough to do any of this on the guitar. Any of it. You are good enough. Whoever it is who's a master of what you would like to be able to do, they started somewhere. And were they good when they first started playing guitar? They're terrible. Most likely awful. They kept at it. That's the goal. Okay? So you are good enough. You sound, when you first start something, just like everyone else did. You may not have the information that you need to get better, right? You may not have the mindset to get better at the guitar. Those things can be learned. So yes, you're good enough. The next negative thought that if that comes into your mind, that you need to stop it, to actually visualize yourself knocking that thought out, is, I just can't stick with anything. I'm just not good at that. I can't stay with one thing. I'm always back and forth. Yes, you can. Guarantee it. You can stick with it. I've taught a lot of people who have serious obstacles with patience, serious obstacles with being able to spend time, even just seated, without getting too deep into that. And we've had success, serious problems, not just, my mind wanders and those kind of things. So you can deal with that. These are things that you can deal with. And if you let that thought grow, that I just can't stick with anything, you're going to follow that. You're going to follow that path. So that's one of the things that you need to just knock it off. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I can stick with this. Maybe I struggle with that, but it's not something that I can't overcome. Okay? Because I've seen a lot of people with some serious issues who have overcome. And so I believe in you. I believe that you can do it. How about this negative thought? Well, no one would want to hear me play anyway. Okay. How about this? How about this guy who's never really did a lot of talking to, I wasn't in a profession where I was doing a lot of talking to people. How about this? What if I said this? No one would want to hear me talk about my ideas, about the right way to play guitar. Who would want to do that? Who would want to sit down and listen to me for an hour or 40 minutes or 30 minutes, whichever one would be, and listen to this stuff? Who would want to do that? Who would care what I had to say? I'm not famous. Never been famous. Who would want to listen to that? I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do what I'm doing because this is just a waste of time. Nobody would want to listen to me do that. Well, guess what? If I did that, I checked today. So if I didn't do this podcast and I knew that I would feel this way, well, let's say if I didn't do this podcast, here is how many, I just checked just the audio podcast, not even the video podcast. As of today, as of this afternoon, this podcast, all the episodes, not just one episode, all the episodes, have been downloaded 312,917 times. Listening to a guy who's been a guitar player, who's played guitar player, never was, listened to in any, never did radio, never did podcasting, never did any of those things. And if I had known that I'd feel this way, if I had let that negative thought fester, there is 312,917 times that a person has listened to me try to help them with their guitar. Right? Why was I able to do that? Because of this. Because I've been through all of these problems before. All of these negative thoughts, I've had them before. And after getting through those with this guitar, I've been able to regain confidence over the years through this, through determination, and through all of the things that I've talked about so far in the podcast. And it's paying off, and paying off in different areas of my life too, like this show. Okay, that's the end of part 2. Back to the chat. Let's see what's going on. Okay, let's see how far I need to go back here. Okay, we got a bunch. Okay. Wow. Okay, so hey, okay, so Kenny says they say, well, that's why Jimi Hendrix wore the guitar all day long. Yeah, so he never have to go for it. And Just Coke says, looks like I joined at the right time. Wrist injury has demotivated me the last week. Yeah, the one of the one of my guitar teachers had carpal tunnel surgery on both. Um, that's demotivating, and that was his profession. You'll get through that. You will get through wrist injuries. It's no fun, and I'm sorry that you're going through it. But we got play. One of the things is once you're starting to feel better, we're going to talk about proper playing technique and how to know when it's time to start. And I've had a lot of people who impact wrenches, work related things, especially impact wrenches. Those are really hard on the wrist as well too. So you've got also inflammation in your fretting hand. Take it easy on the guitar. It's hard to just leave it and let it rest. Yeah. Sorry about that, man. You'll get better. Just rest it. This is guitar's important. It's not that important. Wrist, being able to use your hands, that's important stuff. So let's see here. Haven't had to sleep with a wrist brace. So Cook says obsessive scale work is what was aggravating it, I think. And sticking a simple chord and sing. Yeah. Did you ever notice that I don't ever say you need to practice for like 5 hours a day? Those kind of things. There's a whole, when we say the straight and narrow, right? There's a way to get these things done where you can get the same results from playing hours and hours and hours and days long if you're practicing correctly, and you don't get any of the negative effects with that. So let's see here. David says, this is one of my problems. I wanted to start guitar years ago, but I had the I can't do it attitude. Yeah. Fear of failure. Yeah. And Kev was talking about carpal tunnel. And hey Jeff, good to see you. I fear not being able to play like Stevie Ray because most cannot. Yeah, but I don't want to hear Jeff playing like Stevie Ray. I want to hear Jeff playing like Jeff. I want to know what Jeff sounds like. There's enough people trying to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. You can play a little like Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I want to hear the stuff that you play. That's what I love better than going on Spotify and hearing a new band. I love going locally somewhere and hearing a guitar player that's, wow. Those are just popping into a place and hearing somebody who really speaks to you as a guitar player. Those are the kind of things that make me want to go home and practice, and I know that's the trigger. I know when I'm onto something, when I go see somebody that makes me want to go home and start to practice. Kebo says fear of failure, predominantly about displeasing myself. Yeah. And Evan's talking about dragging your feet. And Just Coke says, oh man, I decided to try an open mic. Sounded awful and 50 people still clapped. Oh, this is fun. So there's a lot in the chat here, so I'm not going to have time to go through all of it. I'll go back in a little bit there, but I'm going to go ahead and finish up part 3 real quick. But I am going to go back through everything in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and start part 3. Okay, so part 3, and this is the third tip to make your welcome back to the guitar experience as successful as you possibly can. And this is, when you think about learning guitar, we want to understand patience versus payoff. There are two sides of it. What is patience versus payoff? So when you do something, over and over, and you don't see immediate results, but you're still confident that someday you will see the results, you have a healthy patience versus the payoff. How long are you going to have to do this thing before you see the results? How patient do I have to be before I'm awesome at this? It doesn't work like that. That's not the way this works. I hear that here's what I get all the time, especially from new students. And from students who, usually it's a student who hasn't even really started yet, but they just have decided, I'm going to be great. They'll ask me, how long is it going to take for me to be good at the guitar? And that's usually what happens. My eyebrows go. Well, that's tough to say, right? Because it's not cut and dry. This is not easy. If this was easy, everybody could do it if they wanted to. What makes it special is it's not easy. That's what makes the people who are musicians a little bit, I'm not saying different, but these are people who are willing to delay gratification till later, put their time in, put their hours in. So we've got there, how long is it going to take for me to be good at guitar? And that start to talk about time. And here, when you teach somebody and they have all the parts down, they have everything they need, right? So this person who's coming to me asking this, they say, I want to know if I do this, I'll be good, right? And here's where it doesn't work out so good. When you teach somebody and they have all of the parts down, they have all the skills they need to play something, could be a song, could be a lick, could be whatever. Sometimes, in fact, most times, it takes some more time for the player to be able to mix all of those skills together, to process the information. Because just being able to have these skills, be able to play the rhythm, and be able to move from chord to chord, or remember these scale patterns. Even though you can do all these things and have to do them at the same time, processing that information and being able to perform this complex task of different skills at the same time without having to think about it. Like driving a car. You're dealing with some serious stuff when you're driving a car. Every time you get behind the wheel, you're dealing with some serious thing. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of parts that you don't even see. Things that are happening in the guitar in the car that you're in control of. And we went for a drive yesterday to enjoy the wonderful pandemic views, people going into Burger King and sitting down and all those things. We drove around yesterday. I don't remember once thinking about driving the car, but I drove all over town. Why? Because I spent my time over and over and over again to the point where all of the skills that I use to drive a car, I got to the point where I didn't have to think about it anymore. And with guitar, when you can get to that point, and it does happen, I guarantee you it does happen. When you can get to that point, you're in a good place. And that takes us, so we think about all the things we do with guitar. We think about the physical parts. We were just talking about pain in between the sections, talking about wrist pain and all those things. There's a lot of physical parts playing guitar. But really, with guitar, it's mostly mental. Even the physical things that you do on the guitar are affected by your mental state. How you approach this. If you're negative and you want to get these things done and you're tense while you're practicing, right? You might tense up some of these little tiny wrist muscles, and it maybe not even to pain, but you might be fighting yourself. Where if you were loose, right, and you're playing legato, you're playing a legato section, the looser you are, the better. I remember Eric Johnson in one of his instructional DVDs was talking about shoulders and posture, and not hunch, being so tight, which a lot of people are, because they know, why that happens? Because you're about to do something that's not easy and you're getting ready for it. And that's maybe not the best way to hold yourself when you play the guitar. And that's controlled mentally. The decisions that you make affect the physical playing of the guitar. So getting to that point where mentally you can get past the worry and get to the point where, and this is important, the journey is good enough. That's it in a nutshell. The journey is good enough. Say I have a bad gig. Is it going to get me down? I might be mad for a little bit. And then I shake it off as I'm going home. Why? Because it's another step in my journey. I can learn something from that. Maybe I blew an opportunity. Maybe somebody important was there to hear me play and I just stunk it up. Well, you know what? There'll be other times. The journey is good enough. And maybe I'm at the end of my playing, where I've been playing for a while, and maybe those opportunities aren't so important to you anymore. Maybe just the playing is good enough. Maybe you're to that point where the journey is good enough. That's where we're trying to get to. That I'm either a guitar player or I'm not. And that's the two sides of it. So if I'm a guitar player, good or bad, I'm the guitar player, and that's what I want to be, and that makes me happy. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about when we talk about understanding patience versus payoff is something that my friend Hal came up with this topic. I did a whole podcast on this a while ago. And the question, it was really just a question. When do you know when it's time to move on? It was a fun podcast to do. And I'm glad he brought up that question, because I guess I never really, it's something that I dealt with, but I never put it into words. Some things that you work on may need to be revisited. And as some of the founding members know, as we're going through these levels, you may start to see some things. There's some repetition that's built in to our levels as we go through them on purpose. So most of the things with guitar at some point need to be revisited. Repetition is huge in music. We're repeating stuff all the time. But in learning, repetition is really important. We're getting to our long-term memory. But the problem is with a lot of people who have a goal-oriented people, it can be very difficult to put something down that you're not really finished with yet. It can be very difficult to move on to something else when that thing that you work so hard on, it's not finished yet. It's not completed. It's not where you would want it to be. Especially when it's an important goal to you. It's not just something that you tried. Oh, that it didn't. It's not where I want it to be, but I'm going to move on. If it's something that's important and it's not where you want it to be, it's hard to do that. But sometimes it's time to move on, knowing when it's enough. Sometimes you have to give yourself some time. And we talked about that in the patience versus payoff. Sometimes you need to let things sit for a while, to let the power of repetition, coming back and revisiting those from time to time, and the power of your subconscious mind. We've talked about that. We talked about that this week. When you're working on something and you could be working on something, jamming something at night, and you can't do it. Then you get a good night's sleep. And the next time you pick up the guitar the next day, all of a sudden, it's sounding good. How did that happen? I didn't practice any different, right? It's really freaky how the mind works. So you don't even know that you're thinking about it, but in the back of your mind, sometimes you start working things out. It's doing some work for you, even though you didn't know it's going on. But having those basic skills down, even if they haven't gelled yet, and then moving on, it's tough to do, but it's something that you should need to learn how to do. To realize this is something that's going to take a while, and I need to let these things sit for a while. Certain songs is really what I'm thinking about. Some difficult songs. And there's songs to me right now that I spent time working on, and I'm thinking about a Larry Carlton song it deals with arpeggios on the low 3 strings, and they're hard to pick. And I've watched him play these live, and with the setup of my guitar, maybe the string gauge, the picks that I use, those kind of things, and I can't really. I wasn't at the time able to get that song where I would like it to be. One of my favorite songs, and so that was tough to not keep working it and working it and working it and working it, beating a dead horse. Sometimes you need to take a step back. So, okay, so this is our welcome back to the guitar, and this is the 3 things that are going to help you stay on the straight and narrow. And we talked about, remember why you got into guitar in the first place, and that was the ultimate gut check, fighting off discouragement, and that this is a good idea for everyone, not just people who are returning to a guitar. Our second section was don't hold yourself back. And we were talking about statements like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Not putting yourself out there to get the opportunities that are available to you. And then not derailing yourself, not becoming defeated before you even start, dealing with negative thinking. And in the third section, we talked about understanding patience versus payoff. And we talked about the definition of that. We also talked about how long is it going to take for me to get good at guitar. And we talked about mental states, and we talked about knowing when it's enough and when you need to put things down for a while, and it's okay to do that. So that was fun. This topic came up in the Hangouts this weekend. I think it was time for me to revisit this again. This was a completely different take on that. It was episode 36, if you want to go back and listen to the first one that I did. And so if you're starting back at the guitar, if you were frustrated and you're kind of newer in your journey, I have something for you. It's my guide to clean sounding chords. This is a step-by-step guide, so you can take these open position chords that you've been working on that may have been tough for you, may have been one of the reasons why you stopped playing in the first place, and show you how to make the small adjustments and the steps you need to really clean them up and make them sound as good as possible. That's at playguitaracademy.com/chord guide. And I'm going to go ahead. That was fun. I'm going to go ahead and call it today. So that's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. Also, I really appreciate it if you could leave a review for the show. If you're just starting or you're new to the guitar, head on over to starthereguitar.com and you can check out my premium 11 weeks beginner's course. It gives you the foundation you need to move forward correctly on the guitar. Please follow me on all my different social media pages. Links to them are at playguitaracademy.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next episode. There it is. All right, let's see who's still here. Did I did I chase you all off? Let's see here. Okay. I'm going to go back just a little bit. Oh, they're talking about the coaching videos. Yeah. Talking about mistakes and perfectionism, anxiety and perfectionism that kept me from sending my first video. Just send it, man. I want to see the mistakes. I want to see I want to see how you really are. That's how I can help you get better. Please just send them in, man. Just take your phone, press record, and talk to me. If that's all you want to do, just to send the first one in, just talk to me. Just say hi. I'm really excited to see your videos, man. Please do. I've been keeping an eye on you. I'm keeping an eye on when's it gonna happen. So yeah, just don't worry about it. And if here's another thing, we post these coaching videos on our forum, and anyone who's in the coaching program can see them. And some people enjoy that, some people might not. So if the problem is that you're nervous about other people seeing your videos, you can just email me the link. Just make it unlisted on YouTube and send me the link. And I'm going to hit stop recording here because I'm done with the podcast now. Send me the link and I can watch it, and no one else will have to either. Yeah, perfectionism, it's not worth it. It's not music. Music is imperfect. The best music is imperfect. Listen to Led Zeppelin. There's nothing perfect about that. They start at this tempo. By the end of the song, it's like that. The tempo is, rushes and everything, but it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Joshua, just hit send, just like Dino said. Just hit send. Send me the video, man. Let's just get started. You can just say hi, and we'll go from there. And Coke says accepting mistakes as a part of the process is absolutely essential to learning most things, except maybe brain surgery. Yeah. Hey, thanks guys for all the great things you're saying to Joshua, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not concerned with perfection at all. I'm not. I have been in the past a lot. I'm not now. That's not where the good stuff is. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to see I think I was talking to Chris about this too. The roadmap that I'm still making, but the roadmap that I've made takes this into consideration. Most of these things that we're practicing are going to be revisited at another point. Sometimes I introduce things to introduce them, to get them in here so that over time, kind of like we talked about before, they can gel over time. So I'm not looking for every single thing to be perfect that we're working on. Being exposed to information is extremely important in this. And then having the time to get all that information to the point where it feels natural. That's going to take some time. So we have to weigh that. And this is not a perfectionism way to type thing. Yeah, just let me see it. I'm not perfect. You've seen that. Chris says, if my approach is if Lee was in the room, I couldn't edit anything. So yeah, right. So I approach it like that, which I feel is being fair and true to both of us. Yeah, you've got to have a place to be honest with yourself, where it's okay. I'm not gonna. I'll give you tips. I want you to get better, but you're never gonna hear me say that. You're never gonna hear me say, how much negative stuff have you guys heard me say? Evan and Dino and Chris. How negative have I been in my replies? Those things, negativity, I've had teachers who were negative, and it was a stop. It blocked me from getting better. You know, I can see, I always point out the good things, and I always lift up the things that need to be worked on next, so they get to the same point where the good things are, so we can move forward. That's it. That's my goal. I don't want perfection. I don't at all. Kebo says, appreciate the live stream. Thank you for hanging out with us, man. I appreciate you being there. Dave says, I got to rewatch the chord list. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Dino. Josh says, yeah, I love mistakes in life, but there's something about the guitar. Yeah. Want to send the perfect mix too. I'll get it going tonight. Okay. Yeah. I just say hi and we'll get started. Let's do it that way. Let's just get started. Okay. Evan says, I swear for the first time of your time's going to come, right? The band doesn't hit the first beat all at the same time. And they left it in. And it was awesome, right? It was a mistake. Left it in. Josh says, yeah, thanks, guys. I get everything you're saying, but have been so hung up with lack of progression. Tonight. Yeah. Just send in your first video. Play me something. Whatever you've been working on. Just to get started, man. Okay, I just want to make sure I make it all the way. I'm almost to the end of the chat here. Trying to be yeah, pointing out the good stuff. Kenny says, for 21 years I've known me. I've said 0 on the negative. Because it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. Negative criticism doesn't help. It doesn't help. You know what helps? Finding a way to get excited about what you're doing. That's where things start to work. Just as I like the negative, don't want the truth candy. Oh, I don't candy coat anything. If there's something that needs to be worked on, we talk about it. We talk about what you can do to make that better, and then we use that as part of the plan. I had a teacher. This is what I'm talking about. I had a teacher. I'm not going to cuss, but he said, you'd be playing something and you may not have understood because maybe he doesn't explain what he did. And he would say, what the H are you doing? Just like that. Right? So this is somebody who's a professional musician, plays out there, teaching somebody who is just on the first steps of playing. And I was on the receiving end of that, not just me. Every one of his students that I knew, he would say that. And we would joke about it. Oh, here it comes. We're going to class. What the H are you doing, man? What are you doing? Right? So don't confuse me wanting to push you forward in a positive way with sugarcoating anything, because I don't. If there's something that needs to be worked on, it's very easy to say that in a way that's encouraging, to say that, hey, this is what we're going to work on. Let's do it that way. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but I'm going to let you know that you're able to do these things. There's just some stuff that we have to do. Kenny says, even when I deserved it. Evan says, I check the sound is good where I talk and where I play, and that's it. Yeah. Well, last night, I did videos up till, I started at 9. I had to go in the other room, so I had an hour of setting things up, so around 10. And then I've got to really rethink how I'm doing these. I wasn't done till about 3:30 last night. So, What's that? So Joshua says that's garbage coaching. Just want to hear the truth. Okay. Sorry if I've upset you. Okay. Brennan says I use my phone for recording. Sometimes the video will enter super slow mode, so I usually will listen back to my videos before posting to make sure no audio. Right. And Evan says, man, I watched those videos a couple times just to get the feeling good about my playing coaching videos. Maybe stagger them. Well, Joshua, I'm sorry if I've offended you with the way I coach. Oh, okay. All right. It's because I get results that way. Oh, you're talking about what I was telling you about that teacher's young. Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was. This is the same teacher this is a college level professor. And I tried to get out of that. And we talked about regrets. And that's why I'm remembering this stuff, because we talked about it this weekend. I tried to get out of that teacher, and I let the people in charge convince me to stay. I think I wasted a lot of my time with something like that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I just kind of, I saw your text out of context, and so yeah, but okay. Yeah. The way that I can see what you need to work on. I know that it's possible that you can do it, because I've seen other people who have had a lot of struggles. Kenny knows this, right? Kenny, we go back and forth on things that some things take time, right? And Kenny and I, if we don't see each other for a couple years, we get right back in the conversation again. So he's been getting better and better and better over time, better and better and better. Okay, I'm glad I figured that out, Joshua. Coke says I gave up learning Spanish over a similar instructor. Yeah, there's all sorts of teachers, and I can't think of. I guess maybe some people thrive in that type of situation. I don't know how, but I guess some people would thrive in an adversarial situation. Maybe, not me, and not from the majority of the people that I've dealt with. Evan says it's good that anyone plays the guitar. That's why I'm fixing that V up for my neighbor, getting him playing, man. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Kenny says I hit a wall, and you come up with a way to do it. Right. In fact, Kenny had sent me a couple of messages that I'm going to get to tomorrow. I saw the messages. I just didn't have time to sit down and get it. David says I did not send a video in yesterday because I thought it was so bad, but I will send it today. Yeah, just send it in. I want to see that stuff, even if it's even if we get to the end of the week and you feel like you're not done yet, that still tells me stuff. It's all information I can use, so say you got to the end of the week and you were busy and you only had a chance to do the technique exercise. I want to see the technique exercise. Okay, we can do the other stuff later. The nice thing about this coaching is that it's not there's not a hard deadline. Okay, the classes that I did, you'd have your time once a week, and if you made it to that class and you didn't have your work done, you were at a disadvantage with the other people in the class who had done the work. But life doesn't let you do that all the time. So with this coaching, what I really like about that is, like Moshe, he had to skip a week, and Moshe's usually the one that's on there every single week. And when but when we got to the next week, got back on it again, we're right back on the path. So with the coaching, it's not that big a deal if you miss a week. I'm there for you if you're there. But if you're not, we can just start back up the next week. It's really it's what you are able to put in. And you're not missing anything along the way because this roadmap's there. In fact, you're going to have for each, I'll teach the lesson on the videos, but you're also going to have me teaching the same lesson, on video anytime you want. Okay. So you can look back through our personal videos and for all the other ones too. This was fun, man. This was a good one. Evan says, I manage a small group of people and I refuse to believe that yelling and getting worked up is how going to get results. Yeah. Kenny says, Weekle. Yeah. We've all been there, Josh. This will be the first step to getting better. Yeah, man, just send me a video. Here's what you do. Take your phone, press record, say, this is my first video. I've been playing for this long. This is what I would like to be able to play. And here's maybe something that I've played before and things like that. And we'll just start from scratch. Okay. And then just upload it. It doesn't have to be a long video. It would just get started. Okay. Good learning environments provide results. Invite learners to join your club, promote peers, and promote sources of motivation. And that's why I like this community is coming together to be supportive and encouraging. Yeah. And our Facebook group is really interesting because if you see a lot of these other guitarists, I'm a member of some of the other guitar Facebook groups, and they're not. It's a mess. They're a mess. There's a lot of mess in there, and we've had we have a very relatively to other guitar groups a very small amount of people. We have about 400 people in that group, but almost everybody in that group actually listens to the podcast, and that's thanks to Chris. It's not a like everybody come in, because these are people who actually want to get better, and I know that we have a lot of you guys are the ones there that post all the time in the group, and a really good core group of people. But there's a huge amount of people, more than the 20 or so that post all the time that are in the group that are getting benefits from everything that we're posting. So would I like to have more people in the Facebook group? Sure. Only if they're on this wavelength, of getting better, not talking down to anybody, that kind of thing. Okay. And Joshua said, okay, cool. I'll post it up for you. No worries. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Let's just get started. That's the big part. And Evan's trying to bring people into guitar playing fold, not discourage them. And yeah. And I think the tough thing's going to be as this gets bigger, because putting stuff on YouTube every day, at some point it's going to get bigger, is dealing with some of the mess that's out there. But we'll deal with it. We're going to keep, this is the core mood of the group, that getting better and staying on the journey that I'm really proud of. So, okay. It's time for me to go. Thanks, guys. I want to thank Evan. I want to thank Josh, Chris, Dino, Coke, Kenny, David. Let's see here. Who else do we got? I'm missing a few. I think I said Dino already. Joshua, Evan. See how short my mind. Where's Jeff? It's good to see you here, Jeff. Thank you for hanging out. Kevo, thanks. Brennan, it's good to see you. I think I got everybody there. Maybe there's some in the very beginning that I missed. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today. This was a fun one. I was a little bit more relaxed for this one. Just, I guess maybe because I'm getting used to this, doing this live streaming stuff. There's a lot of benefits that are coming from this. And so, yeah, I think Kevin was here. I think I missed Kevin and Dean. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. And you guys have a nice rest of your week. I'm going to edit all of this up and have some fun putting some more videos of this up, and then I will see you on Friday and we're going to start it all over again. Okay, bye-bye everybody.